Cool. Thank you, everyone, for good questions. We have some questions from the chat previously we've all collected, and then I'll get to answering questions from the chat. So let's do it. Why should developers use Mina over Ethereum, ADA, Solana, or any other blockchain? What incentives do you propose? I think the main thing that is really substantial to developers in the short and medium run will be zero knowledge proofs. The ability to prove these is going to be on Mina is going to be very substantial for what is possible on Mina. I mean, if you look at every other cryptocurrency, you have like kind of the same set of things you can do with them. And on Mina, they'll have this extra functionality around zero knowledge proofs, which will be really cool. I think for incentives, you'll have to wait for later this year once this stuff is actually out and we have, like I mentioned, like workshops and hackathons and stuff. You will very soon be able to we'll have things around that for you to start developing with Mina. So I mean, I think a lot of this is like, you should also just check out our GitHubs and check out, if you're like an actual developer that wants to see this, like there's a lot of stuff in progress right now that you can check out and it's really cool. Next, will Mina develop their own wallet? How do you plan on increasing adoption to the network? So we actually at some point were developing our own wallet early in the project. This was like, we were working on developing something similar to actually what Clojure has right now. But what we realized was like, actually, this is kind of hard to build a wallet and do a protocol and everything. So let's just focus on the protocol. It's awesome that other people are building wallets. And now at this point, we're like probably not going to, O1 will not be developed wallet at this point. Probably it's going to be people in the community like Carbonara, like the other wallet providers that are going to be doing this because like, well, frankly, they're just doing a really awesome job and like it's not necessary for us to do it also. I want to know what Mina can do with transaction processing speed and transaction costs. Does Mina have cross-chain or cross-chain bridges? This is necessary as it's the current blockchain trend. Oh, there's a lot of questions in this one question. Does Mina have anything to do with ADA? Is Mina's target Mobi app or not? Okay, let's talk about transaction speed a little bit because we get a lot of questions on transaction speed. I think it's really important we talk about it. There will be security audits posted for other wallets, and that should help increase trust if you don't want to dig through the source code yourself for them. So back to transaction speed. I think if we get real about this, if you look at a lot of these other blockchains, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. They've been able to have the capacities they have. They have really high capacities. That's like awesome, actually. But if you look at the actual throughput on chain, it is much less than their current capacity. Their usage is much less. And in fact, if you look at something like 1 TPS, it's actually a very high level of usage already that is happening that is very much higher than a lot of the other high throughput chains. So I know it's like maybe not like the most popular thing to say that like, oh, like we can't just like, you know, post 10 billion TPS and like it's amazing. Because in reality, what matters is usage in the long run. And that's what we are focusing on. We're focusing on getting out snaps, on getting out real use cases and create real usage on Mina so that when that's actually there, we can start working on increasing TPS and there'll be usage to match it and there'll be like a lot of value in that. If you look at something like Tezos, it's been out for, feels like forever, but I guess it's only a couple of years and they just got to 1 TPS. So similar to Mina. To say a little more on actually the route to having really high throughput, because I think this is really interesting also. If you can think about Mina kind of like a giant kind of super efficient rollup if you really want to. I mean, you could all think of a rollup as like a less efficient layer 2 Mina, but if you think about it like that, I think it's very plausible that we'll be able to reach transaction speeds similar to other rollups that are happening on Ethereum, which means a few hundred TPS. What is even cooler though about Mina is that you can imagine that each application running on Mina can kind of be its own rollup. So you can kind of arbitrarily scale out to whatever throughput you want, with the main chain doing a few hundred TPS and each application kind of being its own rollup that itself does a few hundred TPS. So there's a really elegant route to scaling through these recursive zero knowledge proofs. I think the main thing to focus on right now is like, let's get usage up. That's the plan. Like, let's do it. And then after that, let's increase capacity. That's why the throughput's kind of low right now. We just want to like work on usage first. It'll go up in time. So yeah, I know it's like kind of like the buzzword is like, how many TPS does a project do? But we just want to focus on the long-term usage stuff at the moment. Oh, I might as well answer this one too. While we're talking about things in this level, I've heard through YouTube reviews that security is an issue for Mina due to the archive node being stored on Google Cloud. Is Mina planning to change that in the future, keep it the same? So the Mina archive node is not stored on Google Cloud. The Mina archive nodes are not necessary for operating the network. That's kind of the whole point, is that you don't need things from 10 years ago to be able to do things today. And that's really good. You could also, if you really want to store everything ever, which some people do for a lot of reasons, you don't have to store it in Google Cloud. You can store it wherever. Our docs how to do it easily on Google Cloud, I think, which would probably cause some confusion here. I think someone misread something there, and that resulted in some confusion around that, which hopefully has been addressed. There's also a blog post on this as well that writes this all down. You can check that out as well. Is anyone working on a Google Chrome extension? If not, what do I do if I want to have a go? Who do I need to speak to? So for one, if you want to do anything with you're looking for support, like just you can ask for a grant. There's a page on our website where you can ask for grants. I think there's a lot of possibilities right now in tooling. And I think the tooling work is really important because not only does the tooling right now going to help support stakers and block producers, which are ultimately kind of the underpinning of the network, also a lot of this tooling will be really useful for when there are developers building snaps in like the near future. So if you think ahead one step, building this tooling now is like really, really useful. Like I think, for example, if we think about Google Chrome extension in general, it's going to be extremely interesting once Mina you can produce proofs in a website that then gets submitted to the Mina chain so developers can then talk to web users for building their applications. I guess rephrase, web users can use Mina applications directly from the web. Like Brandon mentioned, we have some smart proofing working in browser. So that's like, on the horizon. So I think there will be like so much tooling possibilities around that. So if you start getting involved in that now, that'll also help for building on zero-knowledge proofs eventually. What tooling do you want to see specifically? I think that there's kind of two categories of tooling that I personally find really interesting and I think are really useful right now. The first is just things that help other block producers. I think for that, the best thing to do is talk to actual block producers on our Discord. So if you go in there, you'll see some of the current things that block producers are trying to do, that they're succeeding at, that have tools maybe that are working and they're kind of prototypes, but need to be fleshed out into like really full kind of products like Tower Stake has done, which I think is awesome. I think the other kind of class is things that visualize the state of the network. There's so much kind of going on with Mina that I think it's really cool to be able to visualize the technical underpinnings of it. So if you want to work on things that show how it's kind of working under the hood, I think those kind of things is really cool too. I also like seeing Tower Stake doing some of that. I'll just say nice things about Tower Stake, so I thought that their work was really cool seeing that today. I'll answer this one because it's come up a couple times. Any plans for future integration with other chains? And similarly, does Mina have cross-chain or cross-chain bridges? So I mentioned this a bit earlier, but and I'll also mix in that someone asked about, can you talk about the relationship with Ethereum and what are the benefits of that relationship? So let's talk about this all together. I think with any cryptocurrency, you have to ask, where can this best provide value to the space, provide best value to users and other people? And I think that a big potential for that with Mina is bringing the zero-knowledge proof technology, not just people building on Mina, people building to other chains. So it's very important to us to build this cross-bridge functionality out. We're starting on this with Ethereum, but we are very interested in doing this across the ecosystem. And one plan there is that once we have something working on EVM, it'll be easy to expand that out more broadly, which is really cool. So particularly with Ethereum, this is a RFP we're putting out with the Ethereum Foundation. It's been really awesome to see that they're also excited about getting zero-knowledge proofs on Ethereum. And I think this is really great to work with them together because we can really think about how Mina can best support Ethereum and vice versa, and what we can really do together, which is just really exciting because I think that both getting zero-knowledge proofs for Ethereum apps can be really impactful. Zero-knowledge proofs have been kind of hidden away for a long time. It's going to, I think, be really helpful over there, as well as I think the other kind of side of this is Mina providing a trustless way to access platforms like Ethereum. I'm just reading the chat. I'll have to look at who Sebastian Vettel is later. I'm so curious now. Anyway, so I think what's extremely cool here is that the possibility of Mina verifying Ethereum so that when a user in the future, like let's say 2 or 3 years from now, everyone's using cryptocurrency and Ethereum from their browsers still, you need some way to know that you're accessing the correct history of the chain. And no one on their browser is going to download the full history of Ethereum. It's just not going to happen. But instead, what we can imagine is them connecting to Mina. And then once they are connected to Mina, they can then use Mina's bridge back to Ethereum to know that they are interacting with Ethereum apps correctly by connecting through Mina. So because Mina is so trustlessly verifiable, it can just be verified in the browser. This will be hopefully a good thing to bring to other chains as well, and a good way to access cryptocurrency for regular people, which I think will be really cool. This is just to say, I think cross-chain bridges are really important. I am really excited about being able to work with Ethereum on this. They know so much about the space, and they know so much about Ethereum and what to do here. And I'm really excited for when these two platforms are bridged, because I think that we can bring a lot of value to each other. Does Mina need less energy than Bitcoin? So yes. Well, I think first, obviously, extremely so, yes, because proof of stake is just itself so much more cheaper than doing a bajillion hashes and asking how much of the world's energy do we have to burn before things are secure. So proof of stake gets us around that already. But I think what's really cool about Mina is also we're in this situation where the chain will still get like kind of innumerably large over time. It's just the property of the blockchains that they have. Whereas with Mina zero knowledge proofs, it can always stay small and sustainable. This is kind of like a less bad version of like, I think you get to like see like probably Chia is in like the same category as Bitcoin for this in terms of energy and waste. But like, do we want to have like stacks of hard drives making sure our blockchains are secure? Just a zero knowledge proof. Mina extends proof of stake to also have that property, which is both useful for accessibility and for sustainability of this technology. NFT is one of the hottest and most sought after topics in the blockchain space right now. What is Mina team's approach to the NFT sector? Will Mina integrate NFT into Mina blockchain? I want to mention something I think really cool here, which is the ability for zero knowledge proofs to provide proofs of something happening somewhere that then lives on chain. And the proof itself, it can be much smaller than the thing that you're proving and also can have privacy around it. I'll share a couple examples for this. One is something that we thought about a long time ago that like maybe we'll still one day build, or someone will build because they think it's really cool. It's more of like a game or a toy. The other one is something that is big right now that I personally kind of frustrated by, which is like the whole BitClout thing. I don't see any path there to being decentralized outside of some of the verification stuff that's possible with zero knowledge proofs. That's to say, I think that Brandon mentioned that you can use something to take some proofs of things happening on HTTPS websites and put it on chain. You could imagine doing that with Twitter, where you have NFTs associated with things that are guaranteed to have been from someone's actual Twitter account, and that Twitter user can make sure that they've claimed by doing some action on Twitter to connect their account to the blockchain, all trustlessly with zero knowledge proofs, which is really cool. The other one I'll mention here is we thought early, like, what if you could make an NFT for like being like a very early holder of Bitcoin or something? Let's say I wanted to prove that I have a private key on Bitcoin from 2011. You couldn't just put that on another platform very easily because you have to effectively put a whole proof of all the stuff happening on Bitcoin around that time. But with a zero knowledge proof, you can make a very succinct version of that and put it onto Mina. So you could have a proof saying that like, hey, like you can claim an NFT if you've owned Bitcoin before 2012, and that can be like some kind of cool thing. In general, I think NFTs can be cool for this like kind of NFTs. It's very important that like there's like verifiability and truth in the NFT, and you can do that with zero knowledge proofs in really cool ways. Is there a possibility that DeFi that is built on Mina can run on both website and mobile phone because of the lightweight size blockchain has claimed? If this is true, I think it'd be a game changer for crypto space in terms of scalability and something that I think I get the idea. Yes. So yes, this is kind of like the end game, I think, for Mina, is that you have these lightweight proofs that run on your phone, on your browser. It kind of gives you access to like a Web3 plus that includes zero knowledge proofs. And you will, just be a regular user. You'll go to, mydefiapp.com. You'll either have an extension that'll do this, or you'll be in something like a more crypto-oriented browser like Brave that will have that extension built into it. And that will let you both for your browser to fully verifiably access the blockchain with liveness guarantees that are equivalent to the blockchain being live, so much better than something like Infura, and also trust guarantees that are equivalent to the security of the blockchain. So also are extremely strong, and you don't have to worry about trusting whatever provider this is. And then your browser is making the zero knowledge proofs and submitting it to the DeFi app. This is all happening on your own device. And at that point, we're in a world where we can have secure blockchain connections from our own devices, but also we can build private and secure applications from our own devices that take advantage of all this technology we've been talking about today in order to build a suite of technology that is much more user-friendly and user-aligned than the kind of adversarial Facebook oligarchy of tech companies we see today. So is it the truth that the Mina blockchain has 22 kilobytes? Yes. When we say blockchain here, we're referring to the data you need to access the project securely. That is 22 kilobytes. It's actually a lot less. It's only a kilobyte to have the actual proof, but we figure you probably want some paths down to actual accounts, not just a proof itself. Each one of those is a few kilobytes. So it adds up to around 22 if you have a few of those. Will Snap/SnarkyJS be Turing complete? Yes. So this is something that's extremely cool that is only possible efficiently pretty recently in zero knowledge proof theory world in the last year or so. you can imagine the way that this works is that it used to be that whenever you have a new zero knowledge proof program, you had to do a new trusted setup. But this is no longer the case. As of like a year ago, you can write a program that then gets compiled into a zero knowledge proof circuit. And because of the new trustless setup, Snarks, you don't need to worry about that. It just can go directly on chain. This is like kind of amazing because like, I know maybe it just feels normal now, but when we started this project, it was still the case that recursion was extremely slow. And the only way that it was possible to do Turing completeness is to basically make a circuit that is the same as a CPU. And the CPU is processing effectively the state of the CPU every time it goes through the recursion. And we worked out that like this would be doable for simple DeFi things. Like it's kind of plausible to do this maybe like 100 times faster now, which is like extremely awesome. It's like maybe like 1 or 2 orders of magnitude off of just like kind of putting a raw code onto a blockchain, which is just incredible. Is Mina planning on EVM compatibility with Snarks? Is that even possible? As well as how will Solidity work from Mina, or how are those connected? Here's, I think, the future that will be soon is that if you're using Mina from Ethereum, there will be a library that lets you access the Mina bridged over to Ethereum, where you'll write half of your application in Snarky.js. The other half of your application will be in normal EVM, Solidity on Ethereum. And there'll be a library that'll just be in Solidity that pulls in the Mina stuff into Ethereum. Yeah, so there's that. In terms of like actually being able to use Solidity for Mina, I think the answer is sort of, it will exist if people want it. And I'm talking about specifically programming for zero knowledge proofs in Solidity. It'll be nice if someone wants it and they want to build it. It's very possible. The key for this will be writing a compiler which takes EVM and the EVM concepts and turns it into Snarky, which is both the kind of library framework language underlying Snarks on Mina, as well as the framework underlying Snarky.js. So someone will have to take, say, Solidity, I'm going to compile you into Snarky. And once they've done that, then yes. So they will be able, you can use Solidity from Mina. Someone would have to do that. I don't know if anyone really like will want to do that because Snarky.js will be like pretty easy and just in JavaScript already. I think what people really want is just like, don't make me learn like this whole new programming language to like program your blockchain. And that's what we're already doing. So hopefully that's enough. Do I understand that Ethereum app developers do not need to perform migration just their app from Mina? Yes, that's the idea. We don't want to make people like switch over to like our new chain for that. We want to say, hey, like this is an app that already is like having tremendous value. If they can have some user data that is from off chain or some extra privacy or some extra like large computation they want to scale, they want to pull it into their application, they can just like pull that in and do that, which will make it really easy for them to take advantage of the features of Mina as a plugin. Hi, Evan. As you know, in the US and other countries, there is regulatory restrictions likely coming up in regards to DeFi and stablecoins. Probably. Policymakers want to see KYC completed for DeFi, dApps, and snaps, which is going to impact adoption. Mina can solve this problem via zero knowledge proof compliance, such as the teller, credit score, or KYC applications. Can you comment on this for Mina? Yes. So this is very cool. I think I just like read out the same one. This is probably something that's going to happen. I think that it's probably going to be the case that there's going to be more regulation on DeFi and there's going to be things happening there. I think that the key will be, can we keep the advantages of cryptocurrency, which there are many, while still being compatible with these regulations? And this is something that, as the question kind of hints at, Mina will be able to have, I think, a really big impact on. If in the future, for example, you imagine, we have some DeFi app that runs on Ethereum and it didn't have KYC before, anyone could just use it, but that DeFi app is based in the US. Their developers want to keep supporting people in the US. They want to have a version that is compatible with those regulations. Now we're in a place where we need a safe way to do KYC on chain. And we have 2 options for that, really. Option 1 is we're going to do this in a centralized way, where you have some trusted entity that the DeFi exchange off chain signs a contract with, saying like, okay, like, sure, like, you'll do my identity services for me. It's off chain. At that point, it's not really clear anymore that DeFi is really DeFi. It's executing on chain, but it doesn't have a lot of the same properties of cryptocurrency that you would like. That, for example, like the combination of those 2 partnerships off chain now have a tremendous amount of power over shutting things off on the DeFi exchange, manipulating it in other ways. It's bad. However, if you can imagine a world where you have KYC providers that have private KYC on chain through zero knowledge proofs, we are now in a place where you can do DeFi on chain, where still the DeFi, all the interactions are taking place on chain. The users don't have to worry about trusting like a single centralized entity in order to use the DeFi app. The DeFi app doesn't have to have some off-chain partnership. The DeFi app just looks for, did someone on Mina, did this person on Mina provide a proof of their identity that I can trust? And if that's the case, then they can keep using my DeFi app. So I don't really know what's going to happen here. I think we'll have to just kind of wait and see. But if there are regulations, zero knowledge proofs will very suddenly become like a very huge thing. People talk about them, on crypto Twitter right now, but it'll like kind of overnight happen, which would be like a big spike for like the adoption curve of zero knowledge proofs. So definitely, yeah. I think there is a lot of places for me to have an impact there, basically. Is there a plan to burn Mina? So I think that at the moment, it's extremely important early in the protocol that there's high inflation to incentivize people to stake and make sure their tokens are being staked correctly. If you hold Mina and you are staking your tokens, you're like, you're not really being inflated away. You are getting more tokens. So you're like keeping up with the inflation. On the other hand, in the future, I think there is kind of, I think as a community, we can figure out what the best direction is to go in terms of like inflation for the protocol. We're saying right now going down to 7, but we can talk about, probably lowering that as well. Like, I think it's mostly just like we need to make sure early in the protocol, there's strong incentive to stake, as well as like everyone who has tokens can get part of that. So it's not like you're being inflated away or anything. What are the exact dates for the launch of smart contracts? So this is a fun one because what is in software engineering land, it's very hard to give an exact date for anything. But I will say that I think the team is making like really rapid progress on this. Like Brandon mentioned, I think that at this point, the architecture is all planned out and like down to pretty low levels. It's all going implemented, one at a time. And it's really happening, I think, at a really fast clip. At our current rate, it seems like probably in the fall, we'll have these workshops and hackathons about zero knowledge proofs, which we then use to get more feedback on making sure that whatever goes into mainnet is like optimized, and then it goes into mainnet. Later this year if it goes as planned. Like I mentioned, we're also going to start providing more kind of weekly updates on how our progress updates are there, so you can track along and see how we're doing at this schedule. We have some questions around Snark work being zero fees. We have some questions around wallet creation costing 1 Mina. I think what's really interesting about these questions is I think that like for Snark work being zero fees, I think in time, this like kind of has to go up. Like people are just like altruistically doing zero fee Snarks right now, which is like kind of great for users that your transactions are cheaper than they would otherwise be. Yet at the same time, I think in time, especially as our usage goes up and there are more transactions going on chain, this will change and there will probably be higher cost transactions happening on chain. What's also interesting here is like we did consider what if we had like a minimum fee or something on Snarkwork, but the problem is then you have the challenge that's you would have block producers starting to collude with Snarkwork because you've distorted the market in a way that there is now an incentive to find someone who is actually offering you less than the minimum fee as a block producer. So there's kind of an interesting economic argument there for kind of got to do what the market wants, or else you're going to have a black market with collusion on the side. So that's some of the thoughts around that. Will community grants continue? Like most probably, yes. I think right now we're kind of like in this like it's like get usage up and build a good foundation for that kind of thing going forward. But I think yes, like I think ultimately the potential of cryptocurrency is for us not to just kind of like blindly follow market logic to like its ultimate conclusion. It's for users to have more say over the technology they use and over like the things that they're interacting with. So I think that in the future we can imagine that if we have a community that is like very much engaged in the protocol, which things like community grants do, we can be in a place where users can eventually have much more control over the technology they're using through Mina. So I just want to say thank you so much, everyone. This has been really fun answering questions. I hope it's been helpful to you to just like get a bunch of these questions answered. I think that one thing non-tech savvy people can do to help support Mina, just like one more thing I'm just seeing pop up, is you just reach out to us on Discord or maybe on Telegram also. We want to help grow the people that are aware of Mina and that understand what we're doing here and want to get involved in a project that is trying to build something more user aligned. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, I'll talk again soon.